tell you, in the Vienna meeting a few hours ago, the vice president of Bolivia, Aymara indigenous leader, spoke of this time being the 10th Pachacuti in the Aymara cosmology, and that this was a time for global reconciliation and peace and rebasing. So this was exactly his theme, what you have just mentioned. So I really appreciate that. Let me tell you, 30 years ago, as I said briefly, I was an economic advisor to Gorbachev, to Yeltsin, and to Kuchma. I had one goal, and they saw me as one hope, which was to help bring some urgent financial support in an environment of economic collapse, because the end of the Soviet era was a dramatic economic collapse, and I wanted the Western world to ease the pain by providing a financial floor so that recovery could start and reconstruction could start. And the United States absolutely was uninterested. And it was a case of not being able to take yes for an answer, because President Gorbachev said, we want to be peaceful, normal. President Yeltsin said many times to me and in my presence, we want to just be a normal country with normal neighbors. But the United States neocons, already back in 1992, Wolfowitz, Cheney, Rumsfeld, and then, of course, it went on to Newland and many, many others, said, no, that's our enemy. We have to make sure that any potential adversary is brought low. I believe, I didn't understand it at the time, how reckless, because here was this historic opportunity to be a friend, Miles, like you said. And we just could not accept yes. We couldn't hear it. There was no political imagination, no awareness, no humanity that would have lifted this. We are on what was a completely avoidable crisis. And by the way, our top statesmen knew expanding NATO was reckless. And many, many of our top diplomats said so. And our politicians in the military industrial complex didn't want to hear it.
Thank you. I wanted to just offer something here, and that is, for me, the speech is outlining peace as a process as much as it is a state. And war, by consequently, also war is a process, not just a state. And that if you, based on what you're saying and based on what President Kennedy was saying, we could say the United States has been at war for the past 30 years. It has been, because the Cold War is an aspect of war. It's not part of a peace process. I just wanted to.
And Martin, I think for us, I feel the U.S. has been at war basically every year of my life. I'm 68. My first awareness, I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I was not quite 8 years old at the time, but I remember, of course, vividly, and participated already in anti-war demonstrations, the Vietnam War, Cambodia, Laos, the wars of Central America, which were grotesque wars of choice of the United States, the U.S. funding of Iraq to attack Iran in the 1980s, the Gulf War, the war in Afghanistan, which started with the CIA funding the Mujahideen in 1979 to try to attract the Soviet Union to invade. So we created a disaster for Afghanistan that lasted more than 40 years, and in fact, that lasts till today, a country ruined, and the United States, the instigator of that tragically. And then, since these neocons got the idea that, well, now we're the sole superpower, one of their clear ideas was to topple every regime that they did not like, starting with Afghanistan again in 2001, then Iraq, then Syria in 2011. That was not a Syrian civil war. That was a US regime change operation that has never to this day been explained to the American people. Operation Timber Sycamore, which was signed by President Obama to have the CIA help lead the covert overthrow, or not covert, the violent overthrow of Bashar al-Assad, then the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi, and the overthrow of Yanukovych, and now the war that we're in today. So when has it ever been at peace? We have a military industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about, and it revs. And I came to understand, it took me a long time in my adult life really to understand, the main job of a US president is to keep the foot on the brake, because that war machine is always revving. If you spend $900 billion on the military, people want to use it. They want to test their weapons. They want to show how powerful they are. They want to sell more weapons. And so the job of a US president is put your foot on the brakes. But very, very few presidents get that.
Okay. John, you're next.